how do you do your research? Because one thing I've noticed about you is that I love your books because I know that I'm going to learn about history and I'm going to learn accurately about history. I remember there was this one series, the one about Navy, I think. You wrote about Nancy Drew, and I was like, there is no way that she was around then. So I Googled it and I was like, oh, wait, Sarah's right. I'm wrong. So that was interesting. Like, you
I
learn a
do
lot
get
from your
details wrong
books.
sometimes, but I really work hard. So, for example, for Embers in the London Sky, which is a Dutch refugee who comes to England right after the Nazis invade the Netherlands, and then she's in London during the Blitz. She meets a BBC radio correspondent who's our hero. So I have these four main areas that I was researching. So I was researching, London during the Blitz. I was researching the BBC. I was researching the invasion of the Netherlands and how that affected people, and also the lives of exiles in England, which was different. Oh, and the evacuation of children in England. So those are some main areas that I was researching. In general, I always say I start broad and then let the story guide it more narrow. So, for example, I read some books about um, England in World War II. I read books about um, daily life in England in World War II. And then I was researching about the Blitz. I was researching the Battle of Britain. I was researching I was going deeper for story. So I was reading about the BBC during the war and about radio correspondence and the evacuation show. So I was letting the research guide it at that point. And then I get to what I call it spot research, where um, so for example, I have this pub where all the reporters hang out. And so I was researching pubs near the broadcasting house in World War II. I never did find one. I never did find one that I felt like, yes, this is someplace they could hang out. So I made one. Sometimes I'll be researching restaurants, or there's a scene later on in the book which is set at the Dorchester Hotel. First, I had to find a hotel that would have been used for, say, banquets and stuff during the war. And so I that was a spot research thing. Like, I need a hotel and it needs to be near a park. And so I had all these requirements, and needs to be in a ritzy area. So I found the Dorchester, which is right in Mayfair, and it's on Hyde Park. So it met my story requirements, and it was, um, a very high class hotel at the time. So, so then I was researching, well, what does the ballroom look like? What were the colors? And I found they had a wonderful website with all this historical information about the Dorchester's ballroom at the time. So that's what I call spot research, where I just like, where are they going to eat? What was that street called again? So I'll do these little bitty ones for him, trying to find details. Sometimes I don't do them when I'm actually writing. It'll be when I'm editing. And I'm trying to think of an example from Embers in the London Sky. Actually, the pub was a last minute thing. I kind of had a placeholder pub for a long time, thinking I might find one, and I ended up just making it, as I said, making it fictional, and that worked out better, I think, because I had to have the owner is a character, and he they at one point they wonder if he might be the murderer, so he's one of the murder suspects. And if it was a real pub with a real owner, I wouldn't want to implicate the real owner in a murder mystery. So I actually was very pleased with having a fictional pub.
That's the beauty of being a writer, is you can make
Yeah,
stuff up and make it
exactly.
part of the story.
Hmm.
So Laura says, how funny. I thought the same thing when Nancy Drew was mentioned in Sarah's book. I had no idea it was written so long ago.
Yeah, the 30s. I believe it started in the early 30s. My mother was a big Nancy Drew reader. She loves mysteries, still loves mysteries. And so she was reading those probably late 40s, early 50s. So, but as I had to check which books would have been published at the time my heroine would have been reading them. So I knew how old Mary was. I had to know when these books were published. So I didn't want to reference a book that had been published in the 1950s and or even in the 1940s, because it would have been too late for Mary to have read as a girl.
That makes sense.